gentlemen, the show is about to start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Show! Built by the Barndominium Company and part of the Chief Sports Network.
Juice Wells all the way, touchdown Gamecocks.
Pressure, and he just dives in.
Dozier, notice.
Here's J.C. Shurburtt, Phil Mullinax, and Jamie Bradford.
Game week has finally arrived in the Palmetto State. Greetings and good morning. Welcome aboard and welcome home. Inside the Gamecocks, the show, live from the Signorama Studios and built by the Barndo Co. And today, dressed by our friends at Britain's in Columbia. You can see all of our shirts. Phil and I look very similar to what Shane Beamer looked like yesterday on the Shane Beamer show. We're not him, but we get a chance to dress like him thanks to Perry and his fine family at Britain's. And if you have not ever put on one of these shirts, I'm going to tell you right now, it is the most comfortable shirt I've ever worn in my entire life. I don't even know that I'm wearing a shirt. That's how comfortable it is. So thanks so much to those guys. And we really appreciate their partnership and friendship. And if you are going to be in Columbia or are in Columbia and have not gone over and treated yourself yet at Britons of Columbia, you need to do it. BritonsofColumbia.com. JC, JB, and Phil, we are here until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Make sure you've downloaded the Chief Sports app. Of course, that is where you can find our programming every day via video or audio, of course. And it's finally arrived. And this week, many of us are going to be making our way, of course, up to Charlotte for South Carolina and North Carolina. John Whittle will be here. Pat DiMarco will be here today to begin to preview this ball game. Guys, it's Christmas for all of us college football fans. We got a taste of it this weekend, but we're going to get the full plate coming up, really beginning Thursday with a couple of big games on Thursday night, but certainly on Saturday for our Gamecocks.
Can't wait for Thursday night. Florida-Utah is going to be an interesting game, I think, especially for Gamecock fans. The Gators are on the schedule every year. Well, they have been. They won't be next year. But I always like to track the progress of Florida because they change coaches so much. It's a rite of passage almost every 3 years. How are their first and second year coaches going to do? A lot of times in the second year, they end up being pretty good. So we'll see sort of what happens. Looking at their roster, I would think it would be a down year. But you never know. Utah's got some quarterback issues, so here we go. But you don't just walk into Rice-Eccles Stadium, by God, in Salt Lake City, Utah, and think you're just going to come out with a W. The Utes, they have something to say about that. Jamie's right about the shirt. You may think he was exaggerating. He's not. I've got mine on today, and I feel very comfortable and light and perky. So does Phil. I have what's called the tailgater. They have the cocky or something. So, again, thanks to Perry for all of that. But, guys, thinking about this game this weekend, it's a big game for South Carolina. The more I actually sit down and think about the ball game, the more I think, people are overlooking some of South Carolina's advantages on paper. The games aren't played on paper. We all know that. But South Carolina has some real advantages in this game that could be problematic for the Tar Heels that nobody's really talking about. They're just talking about Drake May like assuming, he's going to go out and play great, and he probably will. I mean, it's a big game, big stage for him. He's an excellent quarterback. But the Gamecocks has some things that maybe we don't know if the Tar Heels do or not. And so that's kind of my early look at it is, Vegas has had a hard time figuring out Shane Beamer's teams anyway. I'm not paying a bit of attention to the line. I think the Gamecocks have a good opportunity to go get a really solid opening win on Saturday night.
Yeah, Phil, I do too, man. I think that this is an opportunity that South Carolina I guess it's hard to believe that they're under the radar, but I feel like they are. Like there's Phil, it's kind of been an awkward push towards the start of the season when you listen to the outside world talk about South Carolina. They want to tell everybody that they're being underhyped, but yet none of them believe that they can beat North Carolina for whatever that reason that is. But yet they want to go back and tell you that when Spencer Rattler plays the way that he did against Tennessee and plays the way he did against Clemson, that they can beat anybody. But yet they still can't beat North Carolina, according to all these experts. I don't understand it. I'm not saying that they will beat North Carolina. None of us know until they play the game, Phil. But it really has been kind of an awkward conversation when you listen to a lot of the national talking heads. They predicted Shane's team is under the radar and they're going to sneak up on somebody and they have a chance to finish third. And could they be knocking on the door of the SEC East? Well, how are you going to knock on the door of the SEC East if you can't beat North Carolina? It hasn't made a lot of sense in listening to a lot of the national pundits.
No, I don't know. I get this like Iowa vibe off of this North Carolina team, and that here we got this big name quarterback and we're going to do huge things and everyone loves big name quarterbacks. And, that's what's going to, vault them into winning all these games this year. Oh yeah. Spencer Rattler is on the other side. And we know what we got there because he was just mediocre and pedestrian last year, except for those last two games. And, the three, because he had a good game versus Notre Dame, and I guess they're doing their due diligence and avoiding recency bias when it comes to him. But there's a new offensive coordinator in town. So why would you think that some of that pedestrian play would come into factor for him as much as it seems to be? And that's the only thing I can think of is that there's questions on the offensive line. Yes. It's going to be reworked for sure, but it's not like you're lacking talent there or depth. I mean, You're talking about guys who've started games on the line being second team.
Yeah.
And with that coming out, you got to think there's got to be at least average line play. And then you've got a Spencer Rattler who, if used correctly and schemed up for, can overperform. It's just, it's kind of crazy. I think, I get it. North Carolina competed against, they didn't compete, but they played against Clemson in the ACC national or in the ACC championship last year. But my God, it's the ACC.
Yeah, and here's the
you're soft until you're not.
Right. And you bring up Dowell too, and let's make a point here. Let me ask both of you a question here. It's a hypothetical question, clearly, but I think I know your answers. If Dowell Loggins, who called plays in the NFL for 10 years, somewhere around there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If Dowell Loggins took the OC job at Georgia, Bama, what do you think? You think he'd be getting some publicity in the offseason? Bet you he would. I bet you'd be pretty. Oh, they added a guy who called plays for a decade in the NFL. Oh, man, watch out. Watch out. Nobody, to your point, there's one name that continues to come up at South Carolina, and that's Spencer Rattler. That's it. Okay, they don't talk about anybody else. I mean, there's been some guys here and there. If you want to cut on the SEC network, I'm a fan of a lot of the guys on that network. A lot of those guys have done their homework. But when you talk about the rest of the country, it's Spencer Rattler's been inconsistent. If he can be consistent, South Carolina can contend for the SEC East. Oh, but by the way, they can't beat North Carolina, and we have no idea who's calling the plays for them. So it's kind of been a strange build up to the season from the outside world leading in. I think, though, JC, that's a lot of what is actually fueling that locker room. I don't think you're going to hear them say any of that, but we've figured out for the last couple of years, if you didn't know Shane before, you've gotten to know him now. He does keep receipts. His staff keeps receipts, and his players keep receipts. They just don't go out and talk about it until it's time to, prove that they actually have them in their pocket somewhere.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think, look, here's the bottom line. How much better is North Carolina's secondary going to be than Tennessee's was last year?
Not better. Not even close.
Tennessee was a below average SEC secondary. They didn't always get lit up like they did against Carolina, but they were not what you would call good, despite having some names back there. Well, North Carolina lost a bunch of guys back there, and they couldn't stop anybody to start with. They got some kids from the portal. Some of them are hurt. Some of them are out. What kind of advantage does South Carolina have throwing the ball down the field with Rattler and these receivers and tight ends? That's number one. Number two, line of scrimmage, North Carolina, and I know this for a fact because of some things that they tried to work in the portal behind the scenes with, around the country. They've got questions up front on offense too. This is not a settled offensive line. It's not an offensive line that you look at and you go, man, they're going to be a top 5 in the ACC this year. There's a lot of question marks. They do have a lot of good running backs. If Tez Walker is not healthy, I don't know that their receiver core even is close to South Carolina's. I think the Gamecocks have a tremendous advantage in special teams. I think with turnovers, that could be the key to the game. The Gamecocks go out there and turn it over and don't get any. Tar Heels could, definitely stay in it and win the game. Maybe by a couple of touchdowns if the Gamecocks are fumbleitis. That was not me.
Yeah, it was me.
I'm not moving anything but my mouth at this point, but on purpose, so don't make any noise. It's game week. I got to tighten up. But if not, if the Gamecocks do their normal thing and get turnovers and they're scoring touchdowns in ways other than offense, I don't see where North Carolina's the favorite. Nothing against Mac Brown and Gene Chizik and those guys. I mean, they're great, good coaches. They should be better than they have been. Honestly, and that's for forever. That program really should be a lot better than it is, but it's not. And Carolina's got a good secondary. People want to talk about the new corners and all. And look, you have 2 top 3 round draft picks you lose. Yeah, you're probably going to take a small step back. But O'Donnell Fortune and Marcellus Dial are really good players. And the step back isn't going to be that dramatic. And then you've got 2 guys that were probably both freshmen All-Americans last year at safety, by the way, in their second year. And you got veterans at nickel. You play 5 at a time. That's a good matchup against this defense. I have concerns. I have concerns the Gamecocks won't be able to stop the run. I have concerns the Gamecocks that with Chip Lindsey now as their OC, he's from the Malzahn tree. He's going to run some Gus Bus stuff. They start running zone read, and the Gamecocks get bounced out of boxes and stuff. I mean, British Brooks, one of their running backs, had one of the only big plays against the Gamecocks in the Mayo Bowl. I mean, that's how fast he is. Omarion Hampton is a dynamic talent. Petway is a dynamic talent.
It's probably their deepest group.
Yeah, their running backs are really good. Yeah. So maybe we're sitting there thinking Drake May is going to try to chuck it all over the yard against the Gamecocks, but maybe they're sitting there thinking, hey, we're going to chew them up on the ground.
That's the other thing that I don't understand about all this. Like, they have a new offensive coordinator as well in Chip Lindsey, and nobody out there. I'm sure maybe we'll hear something coming up on Saturday on game day. I don't know, but nobody's had that discussion out there of. You'd think that would be an off-season talking point, right? Like, both of these programs have new offensive coordinators. Which one is going to fit best in their new role? I don't know the answer, but I'm just saying nobody's even discussed it. It's like if it doesn't have anything to do with Drake May, or it doesn't have anything to do with whether Spencer Rattler's going to have a good game or not, they don't want to talk about it. Nobody does.
Yeah.
It's been a really baffling buildup to me. And I'm looking forward to the game really for both programs to actually go up. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Well, Dowell Loggins is an unknown, and I found the media gravitates towards names and knowns, especially during the offseason. That's pretty sound to do. Nobody's really come to Columbia and talked to Dowell Loggins. Nobody's really dug into who is this new guy at South Carolina, because nobody thinks South Carolina's going to make much of a move this year. And you also have to think about the fact that the Gamecocks, last year at the end of last season, nobody on the national level was sitting there going, well, they made a little switch on at OC, or because they technically did not. They got involved. More people got involved and sort of,
right,
put the reins on. But that's not a national talking point. For all they think is, oh my God, Marcus Satterfield lit it up those last 2 games, and then went on to the greener pastures in Nebraska with Matt Rule, and then they hired the tight ends coach from Arkansas.
Correct.
Because there's nothing in Dowell Loggins' history on the college level that you could point to. And I get it. That's probably good, because I'm probably sitting there thinking that Gene Chizik and those guys probably are kind of kicking back going, they're either worried as hell because they don't know what's coming, or they're just kicking back going, it's just a pro style offense, whatever. Good. Let them think that. Let them think it. All they want. But that's the deal there. It's a deal there. And I just think the more I look at it, the more I think the Gamecocks do have some advantages. Do I think Carolina's going to blow them out? Probably not, just given the history of this game and the Charlotte games in general. But I do think there's some, real advantages nobody's talking about, just like you said. And it starts, and happy. I completely disagree. Wide receivers a push with these 2 teams. When you look at who the Gamecocks have and look at who the Tar Heels have, there's no planet where I think that's a push.
I think Carolinas are better,
much better. And
y'all know who I mean by Carolina.
Yeah, we all know Carolina. So that's what I expect. I think the Gamecocks will try to run the football and hopefully can control the line of scrimmage and do that. But I also think you're going to see them attack the Tar Heel defense. And, for a defense like they have with new guys back there trying to get gelled, one that also struggled tremendously against the pass last year. You can get them down, shoulders start slumping. Here we go again. All the rah-rah of all the off seasons pretty much done. Now, there are other scenarios, maybe all those highly rated D linemen for North Carolina start playing to their potential, and it's a long night. But I think the likely scenario is the Gamecocks attack, and hey, here it is. Stop it.
Yeah, it's Phil, certainly as it appears at this point right now. 2 teams that feel very, I don't know if fragile is the right word or not, but going into game 1, there are a lot of unknowns, and there are things that you feel like you have a little bit of a feel for, but they have to go right in order for you to be proven correct. I think if you wanted to go position by position here, Phil, North Carolina is the clear favorite in the running back room. I think if you go by quarterback, you're going to give an edge to North Carolina at the quarterback position. I think those 2 things alone are something that a lot of folks will look at and say that is a difference maker when 2 teams that seem to be on an even playing field are going up against each other. But I do think that South Carolina is better on the wide receiver side of things. I think offensive line is probably very similar for both, to be quite frank, just based on what we know. And then defensively, I don't care how talented some of the guys are that have been recruited over there. South Carolina's secondary is clearly better. Their linebackers are clearly better, and up front they're clearly better, or at least they are based on what we know. So there's just a lot of offsetting stuff here. The one thing I didn't mention is special teams, and we know who that favors. It favors the Gamecocks over literally everybody on their schedule and beyond. So, I can see it. I can understand it. And we just have to hope that when you play in a game, the first game of the season against a team that is pretty comparable, you don't make a bunch of mistakes. And that can happen in week 1, especially when you're not at home.
Yeah. You just have to play confidently and make sure you limit turnovers and any other errors. Like you can, I think the biggest threat for Carolina going into this game is shooting yourself in the foot. You
Yeah.
know, stupid penalties, you know, things that don't even have, you know, like even pre-snap things, you know, just stuff like that. You're not going into a raucous, you know, away environment playing a conference game here. So crowd noise shouldn't be that big an issue if you were playing in some, you know, enemy SEC stadium. But you've got to be sound fundamentally, and then the good things will happen. It was just like, it's one of those things where you just have to practice, or you have to play like you've practiced. So you've been practicing all these fundamentals, this, you know, ball control, you know, limiting turnovers, things of that nature, and you just have to implement it against a different color jersey at this point. I think it's, you know, a heck of a lot better draw than if you open the season up with, you say, you know, I don't know, Georgia, Bama, somebody like that. So just be smart, protect the football, and I think good things are going to happen.
It could be quite the barometer game for South Carolina. The thought is, if the Gamecocks can get through North Carolina coming up on Saturday evening, that they'll be 2-0 heading to Athens. And guess what? They might be joined by College Game Day again if that's the case. So keep your eyes peeled for that, which, by the way, would just be an outstanding start to the year 3. You talking about getting them on the radar. Shane Beamer has them on the radar. They are as much on the radar right now from a publicity standpoint is any program in the country, if you can believe that or not. They're going to be on the Saturday night game. They got College Game Day that's going to be there. They're already at on CBS at 3:30, coming up 2 weeks after that in Athens against the number 1 team in the country. There is nobody, guys, nobody, not LSU or Florida State either, even though they've got their big game coming up on Sunday night. There's nobody that has as big of an opportunity to make a statement than the Gamecocks. Isn't that crazy? Nobody in college football can make a statement bigger than they can make one in the first 3 weeks of the season, because of the spotlight, because of the stage, and because of the opportunity that they have, which is really, really incredible.
I wouldn't stop at the first 5.
Sure. Yeah. You want to include
if
Tennessee? No, I'm just talking about the knowns that we have with the media
as
hype and the
far as
presence
TV and stuff goes. Yeah. I mean, because I mean, 2 of the first 3 weeks, you got Game Day, ABC prime time in Charlotte, right? Then you roll and you know, you got Furman, and that's another awesome home opener at night, which I'm glad is becoming a tradition around here, because opening at home at noon stinks to high heavens. Did that, I think, in 18 when Coastal came in. And then, you know, you got the CBS game of the week, which is always special. I think that's probably the first time. Is it the first time Carolina's been the SEC game of the week on CBS since 18 Georgia? I don't think Beamer's been on CBS yet.
No, he hasn't.
I think it's it.
That can't be right. Is that right? You got to be kidding me.
18 Georgia.
Was 19 not CBS? No,
there was no 19. Was a noon
19 was
ESPN.
ESPN.
Yeah, that's right. ESPN noon kickoff. Yeah.
So yeah, 18 Georgia in Columbia.
That's incredible.
It's the last time. So here in 5 years later, they're back on CBS. So we'll see sort of what happens. But you know, I think it is a tremendous challenge. I think getting off to a fast start's paramount this year, because your schedule's front loaded. And you don't want to get into a hole. I think you can get through if you can get to November and you're sitting there at like something in 2, this team could really have a big old record at the end of the year, because you end with 4 straight home games.
Right.
And Jacksonville State and Vandy are 2 of them. By the way, I don't know
Whoa.
about that Vandy Bowl prediction.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't want to overreact after one game. It's an opener. Those Hawaii kids played their tails off.
Fair.
I thought, but it was not pretty. But
that was not good.
Vandy, Jack State, Kentucky, Clemson. I mean, that's very manageable. And so, I don't think you want to fall into a 2-3 hole or a 1-4 hole, which could happen. I mean, look, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi State, North Carolina, they're all capable of beating the Gamecocks. And to some extent, vice versa. I want to at least see Georgia play somebody before I, completely crown them. But I do think they'll be quite good. But so, you start talking about a nice start in November for this team. I mean, anything could happen because you got it right there lined up. You got a top 25 non-conference. You've got a blue-collar, tough SEC cross-division opponent coming to Columbia and Mississippi State that thinks they're going to beat you. They're not scared of coming to see you.
No.
They've got this as a win, You got Georgia and you got at Tennessee, the top two teams predicted in the SEC East on the road in two places that are very tough to win. So you get through this with a nice record, look out. You got to look at it as an opportunity. You can't look at it as, oh, woe is me. You got to look at it as an opportunity.
They certainly have that. There's no doubt. We're going to take this opportunity to hit a timeout. When we return, John Whittle with the Big Spur. He'll be here to give us his thoughts on the upcoming ball game as well. And then Pat DiMarco will follow in Talkin Ball with the former great, well, he'll always be a great Gamecock, but the former Gamecock and decades worth of NFL experience. Probably some pretty good stuff to have around when you're preparing for a game with two elite quarterbacks that will play in the NFL. We are built by the Barn Dough Co. and always live from the Signorama Studios. Signorama is the preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics. You'll see their work as you always do the following Saturday night when Furman walks into Williams-Brice Stadium and the Gamecocks. By that time, hopefully, you're looking to go 2-0. John Whittle up next. Hang tight. We're dressed today by Britons of Columbia, and we'll be right back. Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington. Half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer. Electric Bikes of Charleston offers the most fun you'll ever have on two wheels. Magnum, Velotric, Aventon bikes, and more. And they sell to consumers all across the state and offer outstanding warranties and service after the sale. 5 levels of pedal assist plus a throttle help you handle the southern heat better, but still get great exercise. Bikes are available all ages and sizes. ElectricBikesCharleston.com or stop into their store in Mount Pleasant. Electric Bikes of Charleston, powering Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Bikes are Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston! Electric Bikes in Charleston!
whenever we get that is what I'm more confident that that's the one we'll see as opposed to
I think he
the one we
wants.
saw at the beginning of last season.
Yeah, I think he wants the outside world to just continue to focus on Drake May. Real quick before we get to John here, let me pass this along. This is pretty cool, and if you take a good look, if you have eyes that work, and you see mine or Phil's shirt, or you see JC's shoulders, and you just like from the shoulders up. If you call Perry and the gang at Britain's in Columbia, 803-771-2700, and tell him your size, he'll send it to you. He'll put it in the mail. He'll send it to you. UPS. Guess what? He will not charge you shipping either. It's pretty cool. Because nobody does that anymore. Shipping costs suck.
Yeah, free shipping. Yeah, and then somebody asked about online. This is the great thing about Britons. They don't do, or one of the things about Britons that makes it unique. They don't do online. They just you can call over the phone and order, or you can come in and you get that personal service. Man, I got a pair of pants that I'm not modeling today.
Yes,
but
you're not wearing pants today?
It's debatable whether I have pants on or not. No one will ever know. But they're the best fitting pair of pants I've ever had. That's my second pair of pants from Britain's all time. I got some 10 years ago. Fit great. This time they fit great. Got a belt that's hand woven with a script Carolina on it. And I got the best daggone pair of shoes I think I've ever had. They're leather, nice with the Gamecock insignia on them. I call them my bougie shoes.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Phil's got some too. So,
I got the bougie shoes.
Bradford's getting some soon. So, look, man, Britain's of Columbia, man. Just check it out. You get that personal service, and it's always good when you want your stuff to fit right.
No doubt.
Yeah, I've got more good news. I just had my new tailgate grill delivered at the front door, so this is going to be a damn good day. Now that hurricane's going to hit and it's going to tear all my stuff up, I can't wait. All right, John, we've kept you silent long enough. Everybody's here because you are. They really want to hear your thoughts above ours. It's game week. What's up?
I'm just thank you for the pause, because I'm still trying to decipher what I'm seeing here in the bottom left corner of my screen. I see Jamie with no hat, no facial hair. This is a different look for me.
Well, all that stuff didn't go well with the shirt. So I thought, let's ditch the hat, trim the beard, and let's get serious, man. It's time to play ball.
Let's do it.
Hey, John, I got something you'll like.
Yeah.
Look what Perry gave me for Britain's. Can you see that? Oh, sorry, that's the screen. How about this? This is their barbecue sauce, the Why Not Us barbecue sauce.
I love it.
Yeah. They say that you should try it on Bulldogs, Commodores, Wildcats, Tigers, Vols, Gators, and Aggies.
I wonder what barbecue Aggie tastes like.
But they say, you know what they say? Caution, it's not best on poultry.
Clever.
But yeah, they gave me a jar of barbecue sauce, Coach's limited edition barbecue sauce, the yellow mustard based, of course. So I'm looking forward to using this probably for the Furman game, I would imagine.
Yeah,
we don't need to tailgate, right, JC?
Definitely got a bottle myself, and ready to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. All right, John. Here we go. We've been talking about a lot of the offseason conversation really centers around Drake May, and in North Carolina, he's depending on who you ask, maybe the top pick in next year's draft. Who knows? Maybe he's the best quarterback in the country over the guy that won the Heisman last year. Who knows? I don't know. And then when you ask someone about Spencer Rattler, it generally revolves around, well, it just depends on which type of Spencer Rattler shows up. But I can't say that that's a necessarily wrong thing to say. It's been proven correct, really. But your thoughts on the hype around this game going into it?
Yeah, love it. I mean, I love the hype around it. I do think Spencer probably deserves a little bit more credit than maybe what he's getting from some out there. You know, he did finish the season strong, but you're right in that he was very inconsistent a lot over the first 3/4 of the season. So, you know, I understand that conversation, but you know, this is year 2 for him at South Carolina. He's been through it now. Now it is a new offensive coordinator, but certainly seems like he's fitting with Dowell Loggins much better than Marcus Satterfield. So, you know, I do anticipate Spencer having a much more consistent type of season this year, and look forward to seeing what he's got out there here in 5-6 days.
Expand on that a little bit, John. What have you heard there? The relationship between Dowell and Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, Spencer came out and said it, like he gets it better. You know, he fits better. You know, he said it in his press conference 10 days ago now, almost 2 weeks, that he feels better and more comfortable in this offense, and he feels like it fits. The system fits him a little bit better than last year. So, you know, I mean, that was a point that he brought up, and I wish I'd been in that room that day to get him to expand on it a little bit and why that is. But, you know, he feels good. The results have been good by all accounts, both publicly and privately coming out of practice, you know, in front of the scenes, behind the scenes. So, yeah, I think he's in a good spot going into this year.
John, Spencer, when you go back and look at his stats he has 7 games in his entire career, 7, where he completed under 63% of his passes in a ball game. That's it, 7. And 4 of those 7 were last year under Marcus Satterfield. So historically, he's been very accurate. And I think one of the things that I'm really excited to see is an NFL style offense that generally brings accuracy with it, right? Because you're talking about high percentage type throws, because they're wanting to find playmakers and one-on-one opportunities. That's what the NFL is all about. It's about matchups. And I think that is one of the things that I'm really most excited to see this year, is this system that will design itself for Rattler to be able to get the ball into his playmakers' hands and then see what they can do from there. It was supposed to be like that last year, but it seemed like a lot of those balls never really crossed the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason last year that things were so difficult was just because it was too complicated for everybody. But this year it seems much more simplified, and that was a goal this offseason to not necessarily narrow down everything and make it too simplistic, but to make things a little bit easier in terms of play calls and personnel groupings and so forth. So I do think that is going to help everybody. But Spencer's also got a veteran group of receivers that he's worked with for a couple of years now. And I feel really good and about that group of receivers. And then you throw in Josh Simon and Trey Knox, and he's got weapons out there. So, you know, I think a lot of this will come down to the offensive line, which it feels like that's a broken record, not only this year, but in previous seasons. But I do feel pretty good about those guys going into this year as well.
When you look at the North Carolina running back group, John, it's probably the deepest group they have overall on the team, both sides of the ball, including special teams. And then you look at South Carolina's defensive side, and you're really hoping to see a major step forward up front this year. But also, I'm talking about from the defensive line, but also you're talking about a linebacking core that they finally feel like they've got some real depth. Shane has said that publicly. They feel like they have some size. They feel like they have some speed. Got some brains over there, some guys that know what they're doing. So how would you describe that matchup and what we're looking towards this weekend? North Carolina's, even with Drake May in the game, of course, North Carolina's running game versus South Carolina trying to stop it.
Well, I mean, you bring up South Carolina's linebackers, and you know, to me, that group has the most potential on this entire South Carolina roster to make a difference, a greater difference overall. Like from where that linebacker group played last year to what the ceiling is on this year's linebacker group, I feel like is the biggest gap, right? Does that make sense? So I feel like when you throw Debo Williams out there, Stone Blanton, healthy Mo Kaba, Pup Howard, Bam Martin Scott, who's a veteran now, and bring some speed, athleticism, hitting ability. Like, I feel like those 5 guys especially can be really, really good for this team, and take nothing away from Brad Johnson and Sherrod Green last year. You know, they were veterans and did a decent job, but these guys can fly around better. They'll play downhill a little bit more. They just have different traits, and I feel like the ceiling with these guys is higher than where they were last year. So, you know, I think that's a huge deal in the run game. You know, the defensive line can do their jobs, and you know, if the linebackers aren't there to make the stop, then you know, it's really going to be all for naught, but which I think we saw a few times last year. So, you know, I think this defensive line can be really good too. What's going to be interesting to me is how it all kind of comes together and evolves over the course of the season. Like Tonka Hemingway may be playing more snaps out on the edge in the first week of the season than maybe he does later on when Jatias Gear is 100% healthy and Drew Tazama is fully integrated into this thing and has more snaps under his belt than just a week's worth of practice. So I think the defensive line is certainly going to evolve some over the course of the year, but I feel like they're entering the season in a pretty good spot, but have potential to get better there too. So, you know, as far as North Carolina's run game, as you mentioned, there's depth and talent back there, a couple of proven guys. So, but I feel like South Carolina's defense is going to be okay, and we'll learn a lot about those guys, I think, this coming weekend.
The North Carolina offense, to kind of lump everybody into this conversation, it's kind of a fascinating conversation right now because you've got a new offensive coordinator, and then you've got a quarterback last year who ran for how many yards did May run for last year? 800, something like that. It was a lot, right?
He was the leading rusher, so yeah.
It was. I want to say it was like 800 something yards or something like that. But it's strange because you have all this depth at the running back position. Chip Lindsey's new to the program, calling the plays. Yet your leading returning rusher was your starting quarterback, who we know can also run. But what I found, John, in kind of going back and looking over his numbers, is the games that he did not play well offensively, throwing the football, were the games where they stopped him from running the football. Like if they prevented, at least slowed him down dramatically to where, you know, he was only maybe averaging a yard or two per carry as opposed to 12, 13 carries for 65 yards or something like that, it greatly affected his passing game. And I'm really interested to see how South Carolina attacks that this week.
Well, and it might come down to a couple of different factors. It may be, you know, just him getting hit a little bit and tackled and that run game not working for him. You know, maybe that's the big deal for him. I mean, if you can get to a quarterback and affect him that way, it can affect him in a lot of different ways. So, but you know, Drake May's a year older. He's a year better, and you know, I anticipate that a guy the caliber of him will work this offseason. He will have noticed that. He will have noticed that and have done a lot to improve that particular stat that you mentioned and work to improve his game that way. So, you know, that may or may not be the case this year. That may be a very astute observation, or it may just end up being something that we talk about as something over the course of the season, as something that he's improved on dramatically. But I mean, the guy's one of the front runners for the Heisman for a reason, and you know, you expect a guy like that to keep improving and making tweaks to his game.
Did y'all think that Sam Hartman is now more in that Heisman conversation after his performance against Navy this weekend? Just out of curiosity. Anybody? Yeah.
Of course. He's the Notre Dame quarterback. And look,
right? Yeah.
Look, they looked really, really good.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, I mean, when you put up a performance like that, it certainly catches eyes. Now, as somebody who votes for the Heisman, like, I try not to look at one game, especially early in the season, and form any kind of firm opinion. Like,
Sure, absolutely.
you know, I wish
go back 1 year to Anthony Richardson on that conversation. It died out pretty quick, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, you can look at a bunch of people like that, especially at the quarterback position. But you know, at the same time, like I'm the guy who wishes there weren't really preseason polls that your rankings would come out after about 4 weeks of the season, so you could have a better snapshot of you know what teams are and what they look like after a few games, and then rank that way. So you know, I try to approach things the same way with the Heisman. You know, I kind of look at things. I try to get a little bit of a sample size, and then over the course of the season, go back and look at things specifically. But you know, but to your point, like when you go out and have great games, when the whole world's watching, and the whole world was watching on Saturday, it certainly does something for you, and can certainly draw some eyes.
Yeah, I think I made a statement earlier. I'm not sure if you had jumped in just yet and heard it, but I mentioned to JC and Phil that the first 3 weeks of the season, South Carolina has this enormous opportunity. They have as large of an opportunity as anybody in the sport of college football the first 3 weeks of the season, because of how it's set up right now with you got game day, prime time on ABC, 2 weeks later, right there on CBS, game of the week. Last year for the SEC on CBS, if you beat North Carolina, Georgia's going to be undefeated. There's a high chance that College Game Day actually makes its way to Athens, potentially for that weekend as well, based on some whispers out there. And so you're talking about you could literally make as big of a statement as anybody out there, you know, coming kind of from off the radar, at least on the fringe of that radar, to jumping right smack dab in the minute. Now, that of course sounds like me predicting that they open the season 3-0 with a win over North Carolina, a win over Furman, and a win over Georgia. I'm not predicting that. All I'm saying is that they have as much of an opportunity to make some big impact out there. What I'm getting at here, now that I mentioned the Heisman, is so does Spencer Rattler. I mean, he has the tools, John. He's proved that in his career. He's got them. But what he needs to be able to do is string that together, right, in some big moments on a big stage with big opportunity, and then you'll start to see some of that narrative change, probably not only for him, but for his Gamecocks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Heisman winners are what, at least in the basically modern era, you're looking at the best players on the best teams, right? Like that's really what it's come down to. And you know, for Spencer Rattler to be in that conversation, you know, they're going to have to win some big games or be in it in big games, and going against Georgia qualifies as that. You know, you put up big numbers against North Carolina week one, say you do that, but you know, it's a defense that was one of the worst in Power 5 football last year. So do you take much from that as a Heisman voter? Well, yeah, if you stack some good performances on top of that, but you know, you're going to have a tremendous opportunity against Georgia to go against a great defense, go on the road to face them. And, you know, you're right. He's going to have a lot of opportunity to be able to put up some numbers and catch some eyes early, or at least catch some eyes early. And if he puts up those numbers, then he does change that narrative from being an inconsistent but potentially dynamic quarterback to one who's really, really good and one of the best in the country.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm trying to say here. I'm not trying to predict undefeated records and Heisman trophies and things like that. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just talking about how these things evolve and transform themselves into conversations in this sport. This is how, when you have the opportunity, you have the spotlight, you take advantage of it. We'll see if they can get that done or not. John, outside of Phil, what was it? Stretching. I'll be watching stretching.
You'll be watching
What are you writing about this week, John? And don't say football. You know, anything that's really important to the game that you've got on your docket.
Well, it is game week, so now you start looking more about the big picture of what South Carolina versus North Carolina looks like versus just what South Carolina is doing throughout camp. Kind of the we want to see the depth chart tomorrow. The depth chart should come out tomorrow, and Shane Beamer will put a few oars on there. So there's still some position battles going on, but the conversation goes from position battles in camp to matchups against North Carolina. So, it does sound like North Carolina may have some things on or still working some things out on their depth chart. But you go from the big picture South Carolina to kind of looking at the matchup now, and that's what I'm looking forward to this week for sure, and analyzing that over the course of the week.
And people don't really understand sometimes about these practice reports. And I just posted something on the Big Spur about it. These are all meant to tell you guys who is going to be playing for the Gamecocks this year. Who's going to be doing the playing, like Spurrier used to say. They're not a predictor of success or not success against other teams unless you have like a returning guy that is proven and all that. So people need to keep that in mind, because a lot of times we'll read a practice report and it's super positive. It's because it is in terms of these players making moves on depth charts and all that good stuff. It's not meant to say, this guy's going to run all over North Carolina or run all over Georgia or whatever. And so in that way too, John, I think it's a relief because you have some kind of comparison. Right. And you can say, that guy was good in practice, or, oh, wow, this guy wasn't this in practice, but he's this in the game. I think that's probably the way it is in all sports. But in this one, you don't even have any scrimmages or anything like against other teams to kind of hold it up against.
Yeah. And that's what makes football a little bit more challenging than in terms of predicting who's going to be good. Like you have to rely on the eyes who are telling you things. Like we don't get to see a whole heck of a lot of it. We get to see a very, very little bit. But I mean, all baseball, and I understand why football scrimmages aren't open. I understand why football tries to keep things in house for the most part. But I enjoy going to all the baseball scrimmages in the fall and in the preseason in January before these games in February, because you get an idea of what things are going to look like. You can hit a curveball or you can't. You can throw a curveball or you can't. The last couple years last few years I've predicted the record pretty spot on because I have an idea of what it's going to look like when an opponent comes in. So, I'm looking forward to, and we don't get that in football. So I'm looking forward to this Saturday and seeing how these guys match up against another opponent, because it's one thing to go against your own guys in practice and hear practice reports, get quotes from players and coaches and get some insight in terms of what coaches and staff members and whoever want you to know about versus the things they don't want you to know about. So, the first game is always big in terms of, kind of readjusting and reevaluating some of the big picture points and finer points of the season.
Are you expecting, John, we'll let you run on this note, so we got to get to break, but are you expecting to see any surprises tomorrow on Shane's depth chart?
Surprises? Not that I can think of offhand. I will say that I think there will be a surprise or two maybe on the offensive line, because so much of that has been moved around so much. So many of those guys have been moved around so much. There's so many different guys who are in competitions at different positions, and who wins something in one position is going to affect another position. And especially if they put out your 5 starters tomorrow and your 5 backups and not a whole bunch of oars, this guy or this guy, this guy or this guy. If they put out starters, then I think that will probably bring a surprise or two. Maybe not something that's shocking in terms of, oh my goodness, I would have never expected that, but surprising in that, this is how it shook out versus going another way. So, that's probably the most intriguing piece that I will see tomorrow. And because, the offensive line is pretty set. I mean, you don't rotate a whole lot. Like if they put Tonka Hemingway at defensive tackle as a starter, and he ends up starting at defensive end on Saturday. Like that's not really a story to me. He's going to be moving back and forth a good bit, but if you put Vershawn Lee at guard, like that would be a big surprise. I mean, I think he'll be the starting center, but if you put Sidney Fugar at left tackle instead of right tackle, like that's going to have implications on other things. So I think that's going to be the most intriguing thing to me is how guys are slotted on the O-line.
John Whittle, he's all over it, and he will be on Saturday at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte between Carolina and North Carolina. You heard that
Absolutely.
here first. 7:30 on ABC. John, can't wait. Can't wait. We'll be monitoring all week and look forward to getting you back next. Well, I guess we're off next Monday because it's Labor Day. So we'll have to push you back down the road a little bit, but we'll certainly want to get you back in and get your thoughts on the opening weekend.
How are y'all taking Labor Day off?
Because it's Labor Day.
That doesn't make sense to me. It's the week after the first football game.
Because we don't want to set a precedent where we don't take holidays off.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm taking Monday off from the Big Spur too. Can I do that? No VIP.
All right.
Monday after the first football game.
If the Gamecocks
then we need to.
That's a terrible precedent to set.
If the Gamecocks win, you can take the day off.
Okay, perfect.
If they lose.
I'll pass that along to Hale and Alex also.
I'll be like floating in the river. I'll be floating in the river in Helen, Georgia on Labor Day, man. I promise you I will have my game thoughts up before Monday. I'll have them on Sunday this time.
I just wanted to watch the show for 2 hours, but you guys make whatever decisions you want to make.
Well,
I'll be over at the Big Spur doing everything that I do. Y'all enjoy whatever people do on Labor Day. What do people do on Labor Day anyway?
Well, I'll be sitting by the pool and
watching, getting ready for that big Clemson Duke battle
hey, don't be sleeping on the Blue Devils now.
Wallace Wade, baby.
Yeah,
gonna be electric.
Packed house here in Wallace Wade.
Well, y'all be sure to have the BigSpur.com up on your phones while you're sitting by the pool or in the pool, scrolling through all the hard work that we're doing on Labor Day.
Well, I tell you, I cannot thank you enough for the work that you do. It means a lot.
It is awesome.
No doubt.
Especially on the holidays, man. You save our holidays big time, and families bitching and moaning in the background about God knows what on Thanksgiving. I'm just over there reading John Whittle.
There we go.
I've been getting that here lately. What are you reading? I'm like, articles.
It's Whittle.
Whittle wrote this one. It's about baseball and fall.
Questions. Thank you, John.
Appreciate you guys. Y'all take care.
There you go. The great John Whittle. He also has some stuff up on the Big Spur right now about the newest commitment to Gamecock baseball. If you want to make sure that you check that out. We are powered by Electric Bikes of Charleston. If you have not been to Electric Bikes of Charleston or not seen their website, or of course that would mean you haven't seen Charleston Fitness Equipment either. I finally got my Hydro rower. It was delivered on Friday. I've already gone through the training workouts, JC. It is awesome. We're going to be we're going to be trimming the fat around the edges here, raising the pecs a little bit, making it look like I'm younger again. I am ecstatic. It is so worth it. It is the easiest thing ever. I had the kids all weekend. My wife was out of town, and I was able to squeeze in 15 minutes of high-intensity stuff before they could figure out where I was, and it was totally worth it. So make sure that you head to electricbikescharleston.com or charlestonfitnessequipment.com as well. They're all part of the same building under the same umbrella. They are Gamecock-owned and operated, and Michelle Wilkins and her team, sometimes Michelle's in the chat box and stuff like that, they are irreplaceable, and they are awesome. And she knows everything about Carolina football. It is so cool. Make sure you find them. Again, electricbikescharleston.com. Those electric bikes, by the way, up to 28 miles per hour. It's pretty crazy. You can drink and ride as long as you don't get caught. electricbikescharleston.com. We're dressed by Britons today. Britons of Columbia. Check out this cocky shirt. It is unbelievable. Don't even realize I'm wearing it. It's so light. Britons of Columbia, 771-2700, 803-771-2700. Pat DiMarco, Talkin Ball, up next inside the Gamecocks, the show. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
Charleston Fitness Equipment is keeping South Carolina in shape. Clients have come from all over the Palmetto State to find that one piece of equipment that they enjoy that keeps them looking and feeling good. Whether it's a home rower, treadmill, elliptical, free weights, a home gym, or something else, Charleston Fitness Equipment keeps the mirror smiling back at you. Get in shape like the Gamecocks do. Visit charlestonfitnessequipment.com. Gamecock owned and operated and proud partners of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
If you're in the real estate market in the Low Country or even in the Midlands, please contact me, JB, with Coast to Coast Realty SC. You hear me and see me every day here on Inside the Gamecocks, and it would be an honor to earn your business. I've been around real estate my entire life, as it's somewhat of a family business. I work with an elite team of experts from loans to insurance to closing, and they make my clients and my life very easy. It really is elite. Coast to Coast Realty SC.com is where you can find our staff, and you can always reach out to me here as well. Go Gamecocks.
Coach O here, and when I'm not eating average jambalaya or celebrating endless summer in Destin, I like to eat pimento cheese straight off the bucket. And the only pimento cheese I like to eat is from Nana's Porch. It's award-winning. It'll melt in your mouth. It's good on a cracker. It's good in a bowl. It's good on a piece of bread. Also, don't forget Nana's Porch has a hell of a food truck. It's award-winning as well, and they're here for all of your catering needs. So get online, nanasporch.com. It's good. Coach O signing off. Endless summer, go Tiger.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is.
It's time for Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco on Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Part of the Chief Sports Network.
My man, Talkin Ball with Pat DiMarco here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show built by the Barn Dominium Co., where you can build your dream house for as low as $160 per square foot if you live in the Carolinas, in Georgia, or in Tennessee. Pat, do you have one of these?
I do not. That thing is fancy, though.
They're from Britain's.
Oh, it's right up the road. It's over there on the Street.
Dude.
Yeah.
So JC, first of all, thanks to Perry at Britain's and his team. So JC, I haven't been able to get to Columbia to grab this thing. My whole plan originally was, all right, I'm going to go up there, get my clothes, but I'm going to get with you. I want to get with you and maybe try to play around a golf, just take the whole day. And I just haven't been able to do it.
An NIL deal with them or something?
Well, you could say that. You can say that, dude. So I let's see here. JC has the name, I have the image, and Phil has the likeness. So it kind of all works.
There's the trifecta right there.
you know what I'm saying? I even had to do my hair up and all that. So, but anyways, they sent these. I finally got my shirts at least. Dude, these are the nicest shirts I've ever put on. And so anyways, I didn't know if you'd have one.
No, I like it. I'll have to swing by and get me one.
Well, I don't generally wear pants on the air, so I'm just kind of a shirt guy.
Just the boxers or your whitey tighties.
Yeah. Yeah, these are, but anyway, so JC JC was like, you got to get up there and get it. You got to get it. Got to get it. Got to get it. And I was like, I'm going to. And then when I put it on last night, I didn't want to take it off. So, but I did, and then put it back on this morning. Anyways, thanks to Perry and the guys at Britain's. All right, here we go, Pat. I mean, before forget the X's and O's and all this crap. What was it like when you opened up game week? When you were playing at South Carolina, and you're like, man, this is it. We get to play ball this week, especially your freshman year. For the first time in your life, you're about to be a college football player in a college football game. Do you remember any of that?
Oh, I mean, like it was yesterday. I mean, butterflies, anxiety on 1,000, prepping. But the beauty is you get to hit somebody else for the first time in 9 months. You've been hitting each other and training with each other and arguing and bickering back and forth with the guys in the locker room. Now it's time to go take out all that frustration on somebody wearing a different color jersey. So, yes, I mean, I remember it. It's a lot of work you put in, and now it's finally here. It's coming to fruition. So I know these guys, I would imagine, if they're anything like we were from 2007 to 2010, they're gearing up and ready to go impose their will on the team in the upstate.
Pat, I mean, we've done nothing for the last few months, or last few weeks, I would say, really. But talk about, X's and O's and depth charts and all these type of things. Next week we're gonna have a really good chance to do that.
We've been talking hypotheticals and this and that. Now we actually get to see, because one thing all my coaches told me, I mean, even from college through the NFL, is the tape don't lie.
Yeah.
So you are what you put on tape. So all these guys and even all these polls and everything that have been talking these teams up and these players up, and these players can ride the high on social media and think they're so good. Now you can turn the tape on and see if the hype is really the hype. So, I mean, that was one thing that really stuck with me, is the tape don't lie. You are what you put on tape. So now it's time for all these guys to let the pads do the talking, all the social media and all the buzz here and there. Put the tape on, watch the games, and either make plays or you don't.
Well, and I think offensively they're going to have a chance to make a lot of plays. I mentioned to Whittle earlier that Spencer Rattler only 7 times, that's it, in his career. He's been throwing passes in college football since 2019. 7 times has he completed less than 63% of his passes in a game. That's really phenomenal.
That's
and
impressive.
It is, and 4 of those times were last year under Coach Satterfield. Now he's under Dow Loggins. Pat, this is where I bring you in to let you take it and run with it. The NFL model is designed for, as you pointed out last week, matchups, and it's designed for accuracy. Quarterbacks who can't complete 60% of their passes don't play in the NFL. Quarterbacks that can complete 70% of their passes do. Spencer Rattler historically has those numbers in his back pocket, so I'm really anxious to see how they have kind of collectively figured out this offensive scheme, an offense from the NFL that brings matchup and playmakers into play, with a quarterback who can get the ball into their hands.
Yeah, I mean, it's time for, there's athletes around Spencer this year. So I know we had question marks going into last year who the playmaker is going to be, with new transfers coming in. I mean, dang near all the receivers are returning. We got 2 proven tight ends that have played at a really high level here in college football. Got a running back room that has a plethora of talent. Hasn't necessarily played in the SEC at this nucleus yet, but they've played elsewhere and they've put up good numbers when they've had the ball in their hands. So, I mean, Spencer's going to have weapons around him. So, like you said, putting the ball in the right places, taking care of the football, I think is the most important thing in these early games. Not giving anybody any freebies. And I think Spencer, I mean, this, like you said, been playing since 2019. So this is his 5th year or 4th year? This is 5, right?
Yeah.
19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So it's 5th year.
Yep.
So played a bunch of ball. So, I mean, I think if we keep the ball in our hands, we don't turn the ball over, that's going to be pivotal these first few weeks, figuring out your identity, and just playing really smart football. Don't beat yourself in these early games.
Yeah, that was my follow-up question, and I think you pretty much already answered it there. What is we spent all off season talking about all these hypotheticals, but like I feel like there's that first game, there's always something you feel like you didn't talk about. And you're talking about turnovers here. I mean, I would say turnovers and special teams are two things that never get enough attention until you get through week one and you look back and go, oh, well, that was pretty important too.
I think the most pivotal thing, and it goes to both sides of the ball, is tackling. I mean, the last time, other than these mock scrimmages and this and that, like I don't think there's any college football teams that go through a full practice during training camp where they're banging and tackling to the ground every single period. That's from risk and injury and all that stuff. So, making plays in the open field and getting guys on the ground, missed tackles, I would imagine in this game with both of these offenses and the playmakers that they have around each other, I would bet you a lot of money that whoever has the least missed tackles is probably going to win this football game. I know from being on the staff the last 2 years that Coach Beamer and Coach Limbo and Clayton White and Dow Loggins, these guys have been working those type of drills, maybe not full speed, but wrapping up, tackling to the ground, rolling dummies, stiff arm, stumble bum, all these drills that you do to break tackles and ball security. This is all stuff that has been in since day one. So it's time to see if all that stuff comes to fruition. And, the good guys in Carolina, Garnet and Light, and getting the guys on the ground, and the guys up in North Carolina miss some tackles. So it'll be fun to watch. It's every year. It's at the NFL, it's at college, it's high school. It's the guys just don't remember how to tackle, how to come to balance and engage and all that stuff. So I think we're going to be ready.
Is there a correlation between how hard you work on physicality in the preseason versus what that looks like in the games? Because I feel like Coach Spurrier was always more on the, hey, let's just not get hurt side of things.
Yeah, but there's periods where you turn it on and turn it off. Yes, you don't want your best players, put in risks where they break bones and stuff. I remember I think it was my senior year during a couple of weeks before the opening game, I broke my forearm. I think it was 6 weeks or 5 weeks before the opening game, maybe the first or second scrimmage. Broke my forearm in 2 places, and they're like, Pat, do you want to get it fixed? You want to miss this year? Do you want a red shirt? And I'm like, no, heck no. It kind of comes with the risk, and you also got to remember injury rate in the NFL, just in college, in football in general, is 100%. So you're going to get banged up and this and that. It's about playing through those, but having your key players healthy going into season is definitely pivotal. You want to start out fast. That goes to set the tone for how the season's going to be. And I think this is a prime example. The good guys are playing a top 25 team. The rival state right up north, and starting out with a bang is definitely going to set the tone for what this season's going to be.
All right,
Would it
Pat.
surprise you, Pat, if there are guys that we haven't really been talking about, or that we, are hearing are just injured, that are merely just being bubble wrapped through fall camp here to be okay for game one? Directly to that last point.
Yeah, what's North Carolina's injury situation and our injury situation? I haven't kept up with it too much, but seems to think like all the stuff I see is we're relatively healthy.
Yeah.
Should be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really you got to know these guys over the last few years, so I'll just ask you specifically. The secondary for South Carolina, Pat, tell us what you know about these young men. They're all from South Carolina, the 4 whom are expected to start coming up this weekend. You're talking about Dial and Fortune on the corners, and then at the safety spots, DQ Smith and Nikki Mawari, who are fairly young, but I guess really not anymore after playing 13 games last year. Yeah. So tell me what you know about these guys. What makes them click? What makes them mean?
Yeah, you grow up quick playing college football, especially when you're thrown in the fire in the SEC schedule. So I know Nick and DQ, especially guys that didn't necessarily start game one last year, but came in and played pivotal steps very early in the year and stepped into starting roles, before halfway through the year, and ended up playing at such a high level. They won, all American honors, all conference honors. So, I mean, those guys just honestly are what Gamecocks are all about. They're gritty, they're tough, they have a very big attention to detail, growth mindset. I think they've both, at least I know through the spring when I was up in the building all the time, they have definitely stepped out of I'm a freshman and into let's go get after it and let's take this thing to the next level. They've definitely taken on some leadership roles, DQ especially. I think anybody with that quarterback mindset at the college level, at the high school level, there's just leadership and certain stuff that comes with that. So DQ's brought that onto the defensive side of the ball. He brought it in the weight room. He brings it in the meeting room. Same with Nick, just with Nick's presence and his talent alone. Like, he might not be a big rah-rah speech guy, but I'll tell you what, when he puts the pads on and the helmet on, you're going to hear him, you're going to see him, you're going to feel his presence. So I think both those guys elevated. I mean, Marcellus Dial has been playing a bunch of snaps for a long time. He has kind of been the third wheel between the Darius Rush and the Cam Smith trifecta. So now it's time for him, he's a crazy talented kid, to go out and show the world what he's got. I mean, he's a talented player. He's about all the right stuff. He competes at the highest level. And then OD's been playing great special teams ball for us for the last 2 years, has fit in when guys are hurt, has made plays when needed to make plays. I mean, look at the bowl game. He had a 99 or 101-yard interception return for a touchdown. So I think that position group is, for lack of better words, dialed in and ready to go out there and play.
Now we're talking NIL. You see, let me text Marcellus and tell him that old PD here has come up with a way to earn some cash. Dialed in. That's by the way, the OD pick last year, I didn't even see half of it because I was jumping the whole time. I couldn't believe he was running for 100 yards. But I remember when he ran into the end zone, I couldn't figure out whether he was just so humble he didn't want to celebrate or whether he was just cooked from running over 100 yards.
I mean, at that point, you're just like, you're looking at where's the big paint in the end zone? Just get me there and then get me to the water or get me to the oxygen.
Yeah, he walked off the field.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I didn't have any big plays like that as a fullback. I didn't have to run very much. I remember in high school, I returned a punt, I think like 75 or 80 yards for a touchdown my senior year. I did not go play defense the next series. I stayed on the bench and I was drinking water for the whole next series after that punt.
Hey, Pat, here's a personal question for you. The 2007 team, y'all went to Chapel Hill. Mm-hmm. And beat them 21-15. That was your 6th win of the year, and then I won't.
Yeah, we don't
say what happened after. Yeah, it didn't work out. But at that point in time, you were up to number, I think, 7 in the country after that win, if not number 6 in the country. But I remember being in Chapel Hill for the game. Y'all got up. You were up 21-0. Smelly really couldn't miss. And he was playing well, and I thought at that point in time, well, Gamecocks gonna run him right out of the ballpark here. What I'm not trying to. We joke about the wine and cheese country out there, but what was your experience like playing up there in Chapel Hill? Just describe it for us.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was a lot of hits ago.
Was it more difficult to play at Vanderbilt? You don't have to answer that. I'm just kidding.
They're both really smart schools. I'll give them that. I will say, honestly, we walked out of there with the win, obviously, which was really cool, especially defeating that team. But the thing that I remember most about this game was when we walked out of the tunnel, they had their basketball team standing right there as we're walking out, and this was the Tyler Hansborough days. And he's sitting there and there's like a rope kind of blocking us off. And, they have all these baby blue colors just right in front of you. And I remember him just like trying to taunt us. And like, I think a couple of us were joking. I forget who we were joking with, but it was like, isn't that the guy that was wearing the face mask because he took an elbow to the face in the Final Four of the NCAA? And that was the thing that stood out the most. They had these freaking giant 6'8" string beans sitting there trying to intimidate us. And I wanted to be like, you see that left tackle right there? He will eat you.
Yeah. Wait, who was the left tackle on that team?
Oh, that was Justin Sorensen, or he was right tackle.
Justin Sorensen will eat you. Yeah, he would have actually eaten him. Yeah, he's Canadian. I hear they do that type of thing up there.
He had a good Canadian career too. I think he played for like 12 or 13 years.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah. So wait, that was by design? They put those guys outside of y'all's locker room to like try to
the intimidation factor. That's why we went up 21-0 pretty quick. We weren't real intimidated by their 6'8", 210-pound basketball players.
No, that didn't work. Yeah, that didn't work. Who was the coach in 2007, JC, at North Carolina?
Butch Davis. It was his first year. Yeah.
They had a talented roster. I do remember that. I mean, they had a good recruiting class that year. And I remember it came down to like 2 Hail Marys at the very end where we knocked a few down, maybe picked one off at the very, very end. I think these two might have a pick, or somebody had a big pick to end it.
TJ, I think Coach put Jared Cook back there to knock it down too. Or
that's a good guy. He jumped like 57 inches at the combine or something absurd.
Yeah,
how high could he jump?
Jared Cook.
I mean,
like I heard him. He would go just go shoot around the basketball team sometimes, and he'd literally almost pull the rim down. Like it was nuts.
He floated. Like he didn't jump. He floated. He was like, you're like, holy cow, he's still in the air. No, I mean, when we played intramural, I played intramural basketball with Garcia and Brandeis and Reed McCullum, and who else do we have? Stephen Flint, Tommy Beecher, Chris Smelly. I mean, a couple of the specialists. I mean, we had, and we played in one of the leagues, and then a lot of the, should I say, more athletic guys had another team, and that was the Jared Cook, the Freddie Browns, the Darian Stewarts. We didn't want to play against them. We played in the next league down for a reason. We didn't want to get embarrassed by our own teammates.
Yeah, but you had Peen on your team, dude. He was the secret weapon.
Yeah, Peen could jump. Peen could not dribble and could not shoot, but he was good for 7 boards a game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. He's a better basketball player than Michael. That's for sure.
Oh, geez, that's scary.
Michael was terrible. Michael still is terrible. All right, Pat, you kind of hit on some of this just a little while. I know you haven't done a bunch. By the way, let me squeeze this in real quick. According to Brad Crawford, we could be literally any time, any minute, getting something from the NCAA on Tez Walker and whether he will or won't be eligible based on his appeal. So we should know something on that pretty soon, at least something today, but sooner than later, is according to Brad Crawford. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. Things that you'll be really watching coming up this week in the ball game, Pat. You don't have to speak about it from the North Carolina side. That's not your job here. Mm-hmm. We're just talking ball with you, which we'll be able to do a lot more of next week. But is understanding this football team, the players that are on it, and what they're going to try to achieve out there. What are you most excited to see this week?
I mean, I'm excited to see kind of the offense come to fruition. I mean, Spencer coming back, Juice coming back, some transfers coming in, DK making the move. I think there's been a lot of talk and a lot of hype about those guys, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch with Dow Loggins calling the plays and making sure stuff is being set up. I mean, it's been 9 months since these guys have played a football game, so I mean, there's a lot of coaching in there. Each team, I would imagine, is going to have some wrinkles up their sleeves too. So I would imagine there's going to be some trick plays greased up, maybe some special team stuff. I mean, you got to think from a coaching standpoint, you get bored over 9 months and you kind of can get creative and stuff like that. So the beauty is you can keep that stuff in your back pocket, or you can have it, bring it out if you really need it. So I think kind of watching that running back room flourish and seeing what DK is and how they utilize Juju and DJ Braswell and and Mario Anderson, like kind of how that room. There's been so many question marks around it. I know there's been a lot of people talking, maybe not that highly about it, but I would not be surprised if that room came out and turned some heads and played with physicality and played and made some explosive plays to really differentiate this game.
Real quick before I let you run here, we've got a depth chart, Pat. Do you mind if I read this depth chart real quick, just to see if anything stands out to you? This has just been released by the university. No shocker on offense that Wells, Brown, and Leggett are the top three. Nick Harbor, it will back up Juice. Eddie Lewis will back up Amarian, and Omega Blake will back up Xavier Leggett. Here's what's interesting. On the offensive line, at the tackle position, you've got Sidney Fugar or Jackson Hughes at the same tackle position. And opposite, you've got Kaysen Henry or Tyshawn Wanamaker. I thought Fugar and Hughes would both get starts at left tackle and right tackle, but apparently that is not going to be the case according to the depth chart. Gargiulo will be at guard. Moore will be at guard. Lee will be at center. No shocker there. Knox, Simon, Rattler, and Joyner. None of that is surprising. But your thoughts quickly on the tackle position?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I know Kaysen missed some time early in camp. And was kind of coming off the injury this summer. I think we talked last week. Like he's got that dog in him. Like he has that difference. I think personally, when I look at somebody in the eyes and I see the way they come off the ball, he comes off a little different. I have not spent that much time with Fugar and Jackson Hughes.
Sure.
So I haven't seen that or experienced that with those guys. I mean, Wanamaker's played a bunch of ball, and I guess maybe that is also incentivizing guys. Have a freaking great week of practice. Show me and prove to me that you're the guy that I want to send out there on Saturday. Yeah, we'll put the asterisks around it or the and/or, but I don't think that those positions are positions like quarterback where you can do the Coach Spurrier system where you can rotate series or rotate plays. Or I think those positions will be won this week, and if not, maybe it's a quarter by quarter or a half by half, depending on how they play. Yeah, I mean that's my take. Go with the hot hand, and I think. I mean,
well, they're gonna play a bunch of guys. Pat is what we're aware of. And on the defensive side, by the way, really nothing surprising. I would say this might be a little bit eye-opening at the defensive end position. You got Strawn, Thomas, or Umeozulu at one. Strawn is the starter. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
The other side, though, they've got Tyreek Johnson or Jatius Gear or Terrell Dawkins. Gear looks to be, at least limited thus far with an injury. One other thing I'm going to point, nothing surprising except for the fact they do have Keenan Nelson Jr. listed over David Spalding at the nickel position if they have to throw him in there. So that's interesting. You've seen Nelson practice and play over the last couple of years, and Tyreek Johnson's been here for a while. And I don't know anything about this young man as a player. We haven't seen him play a ton, Pat, but I've got two people who've told me you're not going to find a kid on this team or any team for that matter better than Tyreek Johnson.
I'll tell you what, I mean, I remember this was last year. We went out there and there were a couple scouts, a couple from the Bills, a couple from the Falcons, Giants, a couple that I was familiar with. And we walk out on the practice field. The first thing they look for is the eye test. Like who looks like an NFL dude? Tyreek Johnson looks like an NFL dude. Sheer size, makeup. I mean, he's 6'3", 275 pounds. Legs are as big as my torso. Biceps are as big as my head. I mean, he's a massive human being. I do like the versatility at those edge positions that we have. I do think that look at the NFL. There's first and second down defensive ends, and there's third down defensive ends. There's guys that can get after the passer, and there's guys that can set the edge. And I think between the plethora, the six of those guys, one at each position, like they can kind of rotate and get around. A guy that I really, really like and I really enjoyed from a player standpoint and just a person standpoint was Brian Thomas. Like, he has a motor. I love the way he played. I wish he was a fullback, honestly. He just goes.
Wow.
And I remember, I was at the scrimmage 2 weeks ago, and he just made plays. Blew up the guard in the backfield. Somehow got his hand near the quarterback. Deflected a pass. Like, just very active. So I think they got a lot of people. But going back to Tyreek Johnson, he when he puts his hands in your chest, if you're an offensive lineman or a tight end, it feels different when he puts his hands in your chest first when somebody else puts their hands in your chest. I'll just put it that way. He's a grown man.
Well, if he gets to start this weekend, he'll be one of eight South Carolinians that start on defense for the Gamecocks against the Tar Heels. That's state pride right there. Yeah. And hopefully those guys will go up and play well.
I remember I was flipping back through my computer. I did a graduate research paper, and I forget, I was going through my computer stuff. I think it was 4 or 5 days ago. There was a stat that I had wrote about, and it was the number of first-round players that played at the in-state school. Like, if you were a first-rounder and you played at your in-state school, it was like 60 or 70%. So that just goes to show you, keep your top talent in state, and good stuff happens. Those dudes just, for some reason, play a little bit harder. The SEC motto, it just means more. I think it means more when you keep your top talent in state, and they play for the team that they've been watching, hearing about for forever. So, no, that's 8 guys. That's awesome.
Pat, no. Don't predict any scores. Just recap the win next week for us. How about that?
Let's do it. Are you gonna? We'll talk offline, but I'm excited to watch some tape with you guys and really dive in. And like I said, really, really early on in this interview, like, the tape don't lie. You are what you put on tape. So all the hype of all these guys. I sat in those meeting rooms where you have your really, really bad plays, and you got to sit there and watch it. And the other 40 guys in the room are watching you get your freaking face punched in or taking a charge, but they also see you trucking somebody and laying somebody out too. So you take the good with the bad, and keep putting your best foot forward. But at this point, as soon as the pads come on and national TV's on, you can't run from it. Now the tape's right there.
Saturday night on ABC, Carolina and the Tar Heels. Thanks, brother. We will talk to you next week.
Yes, sir. See y'all.
The great Pat DiMarco talking ball here on Inside the Gamecocks. The show, it is painted garnet and black by a couple of painters. LetMePaintSomething.com. Get it ready. If you need that Gamecock room painted and created, LetMePaintSomething.com. Tristan Still and his team are fantastic. Georgia or South Carolina, border in both states, the Peach State and the Palmetto State. You can head to LetMePaintSomething.com, and they'll come paint it. Anything at your house. A couple of more notes to pass along from the release today from Coach Fink and the Gamecocks relating to the big ball game this week, including who's calling it. Hang tight. Inside the Gamecocks, the show. We'll be right back.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Nana's Porch, nanasporch.com. At Nana's Porch, they cater weddings, parties, and all kinds of special events. Their meals are served buffet style. In seconds, they're encouraged. Plus, they can bring their mobile food unit to bring on-site and serve your guests as a unique alternative for your catering needs. Inquire about rentals as well. nanasporch.com. Find them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. 336-259-7550.
If you're on Medicare currently or approaching eligibility, it's time to enroll in a Medicare plan that meets your needs. Palmetto Medicare is here to help you through the process. Palmetto Medicare's owner, Brian Spencer, and his team of experts are here to assist you. Learn about the benefits and enroll in a plan that will cover as many of your medical costs as possible. Some of the advantages of Medicare health plans may include a variety of plan choices, increased benefits, lower premiums, and more. Give Palmetto Medicare a call to discuss your insurance and help get the exact coverage for your needs today.
Hey everybody, this is Mo Copper from Carolina Football. The show is painted garnet black every day by a couple of painters. Go to letmepaintsomething.com to check them out. Go Cox.
10% off for military repeat customers or mention the show. Interior, exterior painting, fencing, cabinet staining, concrete painting, popcorn ceiling removal, and more. 803-522-6832. LetMePaintSomething.com.
If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
Building your dream home is often just that, a dream, and sometimes a nightmare. But at the Barndo Company, they commit to quality and build without sacrifice. Customization, open floor plans, limitless flooring options, maintenance-free and easy installation perks, and affordability are just a few reasons why they've been named one of the best builders in the U.S. Believe in your dreams. Visit thebarndominiumco.com. That's thebarndominiumco.com. The Barndo Company, Gamecock owned, Gamecock operated. The preferred sign partner of Gamecock Athletics is Signorama Columbia, and they should be yours too. A full-service sign company that handles design, production, install, and service, Signorama Columbia has helped to bring to life the perfect vision for so many all across South Carolina. Owned and operated by proud Gamecock alumni, they can handle all types of signage, including interior and exterior, vehicle graphics, and more. Go to Signorama.com and find the West Columbia location, or call them at 803-407-9284. Bring your brand to life with Signorama Columbia, and go Gamecocks.
This crowd, the atmosphere that's going to be in that stadium, ready to explode just as they do each time their fighting Gamecocks are introduced.
And so this frenzied crowd ready for the kickoff. The rave breaks out in Columbia.
And what you're about to see is a spectacle unto itself. Let's enjoy.
1240, welcome back inside the Gamecocks, the show teed up by travelingcountryclub.com, the coolest club in the Carolinas. The weather, they say, is supposed to be cooling down soon. That signals fall, unless you live on the coast like I do, where it's just always humid. Nonetheless, travelingcountryclub.com can get you on the course, 45 courses in 2 states, both the Palmetto State and the Tar Heel State. You can play from the mountains to the seas. Maybe you're going to make a road trip, go watch Gamecocks play. You want to stop somewhere and play some golf somewhere. Travelingcountryclub.com. I promise you, check it out. You will not regret it. And on top of that, when you play golf, you can wear these sweet shirts from Britain's in Columbia. These are unbelievable golf shirts. You won't even know that you're wearing them. Thank you, Perry and his team. No, you cannot just go buy them online. Yes, you can buy them over the phone. Yes, you can also, walk into their building and buy them on Divine Street in Columbia while you're trying to relive your 5 Points glory days. If you call 803-771-2700, you tell Perry you heard about it here. They have a lot of different stuff you can choose from. I'll wear another shirt that he sent to me tomorrow. But this one is the one that Shane wore yesterday on the show. And so I figured I'd just try to be like Shane. And I think I'm better looking than he is, quite frankly. That's why.
I was just going to say, I'm trying to figure out if JC shirt the one Todd had on.
No, it's
I
not.
don't think so. No, I looked at that today, and I didn't want to wear the one Shane had on. Otherwise, we would have all been triplets.
We would have all looked the same.
So they all look the same, like a uniform. And we're the three best friends that anyone ever had. Yeah. Like a bunch of dorks.
Well,
but now, Perry said he wanted me to wear this one on the show because he said this one fit my personality. So,
well, that's fair.
Yeah, it's got a lot of crazy stuff on it, man. There's flapjack makers, there's grill utensils, there's a tent, there's a little sign, a football helmet, a cheer. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, these are. I've never had a shirt this nice before, so I'm just happy. I'm just here so I won't get fined. But that type of moment.
Me and Phil feel the same way about the shoes, man. We were like, "This is the nicest pair of shoes I've ever owned in my life."
Yeah. I mean,
Britton's
all of
awesome.
it. The pants are the best fitting pants I've ever had. I can't wait to go pick them up because, of course, you will get a pair of pants down there at Britton's, and they get you the right size in the middle, and then they customize the length for you. So it's good. I'm excited.
Fantastic belt that came in a wooden box. I mean,
that's right.
It's fancy.
Yeah, y'all definitely go down, see Leonard, Bryson, and Perry Britton's. Yeah. You can meet Perry's wife too, Stacy, if you haven't had a chance to talk to her. Yeah,
can't think.
A couple of great Gamecocks down there.
So, all right, the depth chart.
Hold on, just a second. Before we get into that depth chart, let me get a couple of things out real quick, just on the game specifically.
Sure. Good.
First, Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, and Molly McGrath will be calling it on ABC. We'll go over all this as well in our game preview on Friday, but right before Michael Flint joins us here on Inside the Gamecocks. But it is not going to be called by Herb Street and Fowler. It will be called by Sean McDonough, who I think is the best in the game. Greg McElroy will get his first crack at being McDonough's number 2 guy in the color spot, taking the place of Todd Blackledge on ABC. So McDonough, McElroy, McGrath. The kick time specifically, boys and girls, and I'm really more giving you this for those who will be tailgating before the game. 7:44 p.m. is the official kick time of the ball game. If you're coming to the Big Spur / Carolina Rise / Chief Sports tailgate party, that wraps up at 6:30. You'll have plenty of time to walk 0.3 miles and into the stadium with a 7:44 official kick time for the ball game this weekend. South Carolina, by the way, in their last 10 games against North Carolina is 7-3, and they are 3-1 all time in openers in Charlotte, looking to go 4-1 this weekend. With all that said, though, the big news that just dropped, as we talked to Pat about some of his thoughts on it, is that of the depth chart, JC, and certainly want to get your thoughts there. There are a couple of oars in there. I think the one that most notably stuck out to me, again, was Sidney Fugar or Jackson Hughes at the same tackle spot.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be and. I was thinking they would start at left and right, but apparently they've been switching them around, which could be somewhat of a concern, could not be as concern. It feels a little unsettled, but which it obviously is. But I'll say this, what I was told about Tyshawn Wanamaker, he lost too much weight. Yeah, he had to put the weight back on. He's getting there, and sort of. The last time I checked, this was before the final scrimmage, he had sort of gotten his mojo back, right, in practice and stuff. And so him being an or at right tackle is somewhat comforting to me because he's played there before and he's done pretty well there before. And he's got experience, I think he started there. If I'm not mistaken, he started there against North Carolina in the bowl, the Mayonnaise Bowl, a couple of years ago.
Well, also, Jason Henry's healthy.
I like the. I tell you what, I like that. Now, Pat's on to something about him, and I think I've been talking about it too. I thought if healthy, Casey Henry would win a starting job at tackle this offseason, but he just wasn't. So here he is back competing for a starting job. This kid's got some meanness about him. He's mean as a snake. He's a Tony. I call them Tony Mandrich style offensive linemen. They're just nasty. And he's just a nasty player. I mean, and athletic enough, good footwork. When they recruited him, they beat Tennessee on him. They couldn't believe he didn't have any more offers than he did. He's one of those Georgia kids that probably should have been offered by a bunch more people than he was. So people, and you hear out of camp last year, he's an NFL player, Casey Henry's an NFL player, that kind of thing. So that's encouraging. Fugar fighting for a starting job is encouraging. And obviously Jackson Hughes, if you just turn on the tape against what he did against Carolina last year, he individually played very well for Charlotte. He's a very good player. He was a defensive end coming out of high school, kind of a raw DN type, and just didn't quite have the quick twitch ability to be elite there. But you move it to tackle, and it's a completely different story. So, they have depth, obviously. The fact they hadn't settled on anybody is a concern. But then you start thinking about what's going to be on the interior with Nick Gargiulo, Ja'Kai Moore returning to his home, where he is Ja'Kai Moore is a serviceable offensive tackle in the SEC level. I think he's a very good offensive guard at the SEC level. Vershawn Lee has been playing out of his mind from what I'm hearing. I mean, best he's ever played in preseason. And we've all heard about Nick Gargiulo. And so I think it's something that's interesting. Another interesting thing I found, starting linebackers, Stone Blanton and Debo Williams.
That wasn't surprising to me, though. Yeah, I wasn't really shocked by that. I thought that would probably be the case, JC, for the first at least one, if not two games of the season. I'll be, you know what? I'll be honest with you, and I think Mo is so good, he is going to get on the field, right? There's no doubt about that. Same thing with Pup Howard. But what stands out there is a couple of things at the linebacker position. I do want to make sure I mention something on the offensive line as well. Number one, Stone Blanton has had an outstanding offseason. Like, do you remember last year? And there were people, and this pissed me off to no end. There were people with microphones, Gamecock insiders, who wanted to do nothing but rip this kid apart for how slow he was, which he would have run right over their asses for the crap they were talking publicly about it. Okay? But he was slow. Oh, he can't move. He can't move. He was a freshman learning to play the game of football in the SEC. There's a reason why everybody wanted him. Okay? So if that's still your narrative, you get rid of your microphone. Find a day job. You probably should know who I'm talking to out there saying crap like that. It's a joke. Stone Blanton's a starting linebacker in the SEC over two other guys that are really good right now. And that includes Pup Howard. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, Debo Williams is got a lot of that Shaq Wilson in him. And I know we've discussed this around here a couple of times. But it's hard, JC, you've been covering this game and these Gamecocks for a long time. It is hard to take a guy like that off the field who knows where everybody's supposed to be, who plays downhill, who is kind of a captain out there. It's hard to take a guy like that off the field. So I was not shocked at all to see him put in there as number one.
I hope he plays like Shaq. I really do. That's kind of been his problem. As a younger player, he's very over aggressive and he takes a lot of what's called false steps. And I think just like with Stone, to your point, JB, when a player, especially at linebacker, and look, I've heard how every young linebacker that's gotten on the field at Carolina during this whole adventure at the position the program's had, I hear it all the time. Slow. Well, that's because they're thinking too much. I mean, and when you think, you can't. you take what's called false steps, and false steps happen in a split second. But if you take one of them, that's bad. If you take 2 or 3 of them, you're dead, and you're chasing Logan Diggs down the sidelines like Stone was last year, trying to catch up. There's not very many linebackers and Stone looks slow on that run, man. But what do you want? How many linebackers? All right, so the kid that played at Georgia for Mississippi last year on 2021, he may have caught up with Diggs. Sky Moore may have caught up with Diggs. Some of those cats that played at Alabama may have caught up with Diggs. Not too many, though. Your linebackers are not guys that need to have to necessarily run 4.5. They're guys that run 4.6, 4.7, but their shuttle's like 3.9 because they can react and move laterally so quick. They're sideline to sideline players. And when you don't know what you're doing, you are not going to be fast in reacting. It's the same thing on offense. You know, everybody wants to know why everybody's ticked off because the offense was too complicated last year. It's because when you don't know mentally where to go, your body does not react. You play slow. Right. And you see some things happen that are just like head scratching, like, you know, your 2 offensive linemen blocking the same guy. Nakobe Dean's the guy I was thinking of. Thanks, Quantrell. But I just, you know, and look, so Stone Blanton, what he did this offseason, he did shed some pounds. He worked out. He worked on his speed, which you can do. He got in the playbook, and he went out there and won the job. It's interesting to me, guys, that Pup is at Mike behind Stone. I thought for sure Pup would be a Will. And in the spring, that's how it was. Pup was a Will, and Cabo was the Mike. But now they've switched those. So that's interesting to me a little bit. I think Clayton White likes that Will linebacker the spot. So and that's Debo and Mo now. He likes him to be able to pass rush a little bit, i.e. Brad Johnson. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they flipped there. Curious to see where Bam Martin Scott and Jerron Willis check in from the third team. But if Debo and Stone, because that's been their problem, man, so it's a little scary because, you know, they have not always been the most disciplined during their time here. At Stone because he's young, Debo because he was still growing as a player. If they are, those 2 guys will knock you into next Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I am afraid of those 2 guys. I'll be honest. Like I'm Lindsey Twins level afraid of those 2.
You won't call him slow, will you?
Anyway, let's call him slow. So I am Lindsey Twins level afraid of those guys, right? You know, I'm like, nah, you don't mess with them.
Well,
and so hopefully they get it done. I mean, you know, I would have bet it would have been Pup and Mo. I mean, honestly, this is kind of a surprise to me.
Well, I'm with you, and I don't mean that, and this is no disrespect at all towards Stone and Debo, and someone will probably take it as, is this guy nuts because he doesn't have his hat on today? Has he lost his mind? You know, he just got done telling everybody how wrong they were about Stone Blanton, but then the very next sentence is going to be this. Well, yeah, because it's football. Like, I also, JC, would not be shocked at all to see by sometime down the road, middle of the year or something like that, to where, yeah, you do have Mo Kaba and Pup Howard taking the majority of the snaps because they're just that good. Like, they're that talented of football players. And that would be more a reflection of them as football players than it would be of either Stone or Debo. So I guess what I'm getting at here, they're in the best spot they've been in a while at linebacker. Any way you kind of slice it and dice it, the guys who play, they will have earned it, barring injury. It won't be out of necessity. It won't be out of, well, that's just the best we've got, because we've seen a lot of that's just the best we've got around here at times for a while. That's not really going to be the case here. One more thing I want to point out and get both y'all's thoughts on this, especially Mad Dog. The offensive line. Let's say that Fugar wins that left tackle spot, and he might. I don't think he'd be listed on the depth chart if he didn't have a chance to, but let's say he wins it. Let's say that Henry pulls it off out there at right tackle, and he might. And then you got Gargiulo, Moore, and Lee. You know, you're looking at about across the board, guys, just kind of an FYI here. You're looking at an average of about 6'5.5", 320 pounds for your offensive line. that would probably be the largest offensive line in the history of Gamecock football overall. If those guys are the starters. Now, comparatively speaking, you look around the rest of the SEC. Go look at Alabama's offensive line. It will let you talk about being scared. It looks like 6 dump trucks out there. I mean, they're all 6', 350 pounds, and they move like a safety. I mean, it's I don't get it. I don't know where they find these guys. I don't understand it, but they're there. But this would probably be the largest offensive line in the history of Gamecock football comparatively. I'd be anxious to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it's only going to get bigger too.
Yeah, I mean, because you see the guys coming in, the ones that aren't listed are even bigger than these guys.
I mean, look, know the backups.
The only true freshman in there is Marquis Anderson. By the way, if I don't mention this, I just want to throw this in. I'm sorry, not to interrupt y'all, but I just have to mention this because of the story that just came out. How about the fact that Nick Emawari's backup at strong safety is King Dominion Ford?
I was just sitting here looking at that, JB.
That's the story. That's the story. Mm-hmm. Hats off to that young man for getting his scholarship.
It doesn't surprise me. He's 6'2", he's 210. He's played well when he's been in. He's been demon on special teams. Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, and
Blythewood.
Remember B.J. Gibson was the backup last year as a walk-on. They don't care that the Torian Gray doesn't.
No,
there's no discrimination. I mean, he's just going to be, well, you're the best one. You're playing. Yeah. So that's good. And time for Peyton Williams and et al., B.J. Gibson and those guys to step it up, man. Got to get back out there and earn your spot back from the former walk-on, King Demarion Ford. But certainly certainly happy for him. Looking forward to seeing him play.
Hey, out of curiosity,
this out on a Monday, it gives the staff are they sent? I mean, because me. I mean, my thought is anytime, from this point forward through the season, anytime the coaching staff, especially Shane Beamer, says anything publicly, it's not necessarily for our ears; it's for the team. Is that reflected here in this depth chart?
I think I think it's just because it's the first week of the year. That's the only reason it's out on Monday.
They have to send it out too. I mean, it's
not necessarily when we get it, but like the names enlisted in
the oars. The oars could be sending a message. Yeah,
I've
heard of that before. I think last year they did it. I can't remember who they did it to. They didn't put somebody on the depth chart. Right?
And they're starting to do that in the NFL now too. Somebody I saw on national TV not long ago was like, "Where did this oar crap come from?" And they're like, "Do you not watch college football? It's everywhere." By the way, 6. Shane has mentioned this a few times, so I figured I'd add it up. Not just freshmen in general. 6 true freshmen are on the 2 deep, 2 on the offense, 4 on the defense.
Yeah, we were told. This looks exactly like he's been talking it.
Forecast Saturday: sunny, high of 82, low of 58.
Yeah, that's correct.
Beautiful tailgating weather, guys.
Oh yeah,
it right after Hurricane Idalia blows right through here this week. So, wonderful.
You usually have that 48-hour period after it's gone where it's nice. You get the high in there. No rain.
I just hope it doesn't mess with my flight Wednesday night.
Well, it probably will. Probably will. More than likely. I'd try to get out of there earlier if you can. See if you can change your flight.
No chance. Got to deal with it. I'll be getting in the Hertz line saying, I'm just gonna get in my car and drive across West Virginia with my fiance, and got to get to Charlotte by that next night to give us a little speech. So that'll be something else. But
it is game week on Inside the Gamecocks. The show, finally, North Carolina and South Carolina has gotten here.
Oh, and not a month.
I'm happy.
Yeah, it feels like it's taken forever. Thanks to John Whittle and Pat DiMarco. I guess JC decided he was going to peace out of here a little early today.
It's got to get in mid-season form here with this discount.
Does he not understand? All right.
The internet shuts off in the People's Republic of Illinois.
I guess so.
Noon Central every time.
I guess so. As JC pointed out, Saturday looks just fantastic. 82 degrees in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not a chance of rain. Thanks to Pat and John for joining us. Tomorrow's Tuesday, and that means we'll be joined by Hale McGranahan and Power Hour with Mike Morgan here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show, and we'll continue to lead right up until kickoff on Saturday. Look forward to meeting so many of you as well. Thanks to the team at Britton's in Columbia, brittonsofcolumbia.com for supplying our staff with elite merchandise. Phil and I both have the cocky shirts on today. You can get these and so much more. Get a suit fitted for football season at Britton's in Columbia, South Carolina, 803-771-2700, and they'll ship it to your front door. No shipping fees charged. For JC and Mad Dog, I'm JB. We are built by the Barndo Co. and always live from the Signorama Studios, the preferred sign partner of the Gamecocks. We'll see you tomorrow on Inside the Gamecocks, the part of the Chief Sports Network.